comfortable with visual aids, and it involves selecting visual aids that are appropriate to your message and the audience, and to use the visual aids correctly with ease and confidence. The time of the speech for the timer is 5 to 7 minutes. And when I asked how Laurie would be spending Valentine's Day, he mentioned that him and his wife would really like to go to a local pub to watch 4 straight hours of the ultimate fighting challenge that societal pressures will probably force them to go to a nice restaurant and have a delicious meal together. So please welcome and his speech title is What a Waste of Time. Please welcome Laurie Bristow.
Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and most welcome guests. How many of you have more than enough time to do everything that you want to do? And you can go. Anyone else? Well, I think probably most of you are like me, and we don't have enough time to get all the things that we'd like to get done. And it's been a subject that I've been very interested in for years, actually decades now, trying to squeeze out as much as I can from the time that I've got. And I've discovered that there is no magic pill or simple answer, but there are things that you can do over a period of time that can help you get the most out of the time that you've got. And I'd like to try and share that with you this evening. So, if this all works. Let's see.
I see something.
There we go. Okay, so with that delay, I'm going to have to, oops. So, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I will, hopefully, will give you, this is a great project, right? Learning to use visual aids. I'm doing well thus far. So, it only gets better from here. So the very first thing related to time management is to plan. I don't know if you are like me, that quite often you've got all these things to do and you jump right into trying to accomplish them right away. Well, the first step is actually to stop and to think about it and to go, what am I trying to do? And taking a moment to plan. It's rare that you're ever so busy that you can't take a moment out to plan what you're going to do and to think about it. So that's the first thing that I would encourage you to do, is take the time to plan what you're going to do. Then within that planning process is to prioritize, and I think we all understand prioritize, to identify those things that are either the most important or the most urgent, or they have some special category. And to look at the activities that you've been thinking about just in that planning session before, and to prioritize what you want to accomplish first. Now, the trap that we can quite often fall into is the tension between the urgent and the important. And it may not be tied directly to time management per se, but I think it's a very important component or aspect of managing our activities in our time that we need to think about. And for instance, I was trying to think of an example because I understand the concept that you can have things that are urgent which aren't necessarily important. And that comes to light when you think of you're having to sit down and and your day's beginning, and right away you think, I've got to get going, I've got to be looking at emails, I've got to be responding, I've got to go, 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 because it seems urgent. Versus that planning process, where you take a moment, you stop, time out, and you say, okay, let me just get into that place and think about, I'm going to do and think about what I'm going to try and accomplish that day. That's probably more important. So that's an example, I think, I hope, of those things that are important versus urgent. The third thing is schedule, which is probably obvious, but what that comes down to is thinking about throughout your day when you're going to start and stop your activities. Now you might go, well, geez, that's too much work, or why would I think of doing that, or what I do doesn't lend itself to that. And I'd say, yes, that's probably all fair. But there are things in our day that will lend themselves to that. I've gotten into the habit now of, I sit down at the beginning of my day, and I think of, I make a list of all the things that I hope to accomplish. And I'm too optimistic. I think I'm just amazed, which frankly my kids will let me, they've told me many times I'm not that. And then I'll start with assigning how much time I think each of those things will take. And I'm bad at that. I always underestimate, but I do that. Then the next thing I do is I then go, well, I'm going to do this particular activity from here to here and here to here. And you know, it's like I'm going to be working a 16-hour day, and it's all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's not going to happen. But this exercise has been really helpful for doing that and helping me to understand my own limitations on my time and plan my time more effectively. I put this next point as attack. And attack really means that those things that we don't like to do, we tend to stay away from it. But quite often, they're probably the most important things to do. So my encouragement there is go at it, get on your toes or on your balls of your feet and attack it. Don't get on your heels. Don't try and shy away from it, because it's a time waster, because it's sitting there nagging you. You got to be doing this, you got to be doing that, right? So attack. And then is monitor and adjust. So you set out a plan, but it isn't necessarily going to go according to plan. I mean, I set it out and I go and I'm going to start, stop, and all that kind of stuff. I kind of anal that way, and then you find, oh my word, I'm a half hour over, I'm an hour over, and it's like, well, geez, I'm going to not beat myself up. I'm going to go, okay, well, I'm going to have to change something else the rest of my day and carry on. So you're doing that continually. You're adjusting as you go. You're monitoring your progress and seeing how things go. Now, one of the things that I'm actually at the end of this, and that I'll say that I've not talked about, and I would love to, and I think it would probably take a session or more, is email. I think email deserves its own discussion and analysis. So without acknowledging that I've not talked about email, the challenge with email is not to let it control you, but that's to be said for another day. And I hope that at some point I can hear each of you, I can ask or can come up to each of you and say, what? You accomplished all that? Madam Toastmaster.
Great. I think we